Dear learners, today's topic data information and knowledge, which is comes under the discipline Master of Library and Information Science paper, the Information Communication and Society. Today we going to discuss about the data, its definition, types and characteristics, information, its definition, types and characteristics, knowledge, its definition, types and characteristics. Finally, we're going to discuss about the interrelationship between data, information and knowledge. What is data? Data refers to raw, unorganized facts or figures that are collected and stored. It can be in the form of number, text, image, or any other type of input. Data by itself lacks context and meaning. It is the most basic form of representation and requires further processing to become useful. Examples: numbers, text, image, sensor, readings are some example of data. Data etymology and meanings. The word data is the plural form of the now rarely used term datum, which is derived from the Latin dare, meaning to give or something given. Characteristics of data. Some of the characteristics of data are: it is usually static in nature, it may represent a set of discrete facts about an event. It is a prerequisite for deriving information. Types of data. Data can be broadly classified as qualitative or categorical and quantitative or numerical, with quantitative data further divided into discrete and continuous. Qualitative data also includes nominal and ordinal data types. Qualitative or categorical data. Data that describes qualities or characteristics rather than numerical values. It is non-numerical information that helps researcher understand people's experience, opinions and motivation. It's often used in social science, market research and other fields. How is qualitative data collected? Qualitative data can be collected through interviews. Researcher can ask people questions to gain insight into their experience and opinions. Observation. Researcher can systematically observe people in their natural setting and record their observation. Narrative analysis. Researcher can also analyze people's stories about their lives and experience. So we can collect qualitative data by interviews, observation, and narrative analysis. Some of the examples of qualitative data: colors, types of fruits, opinions, yes or no answer. Subtypes. There is a two subtypes of qualitative data: nominal and ordinal. Nominal: categories without a natural order or ranking. Types of cards, colors. Ordinal: categories with a meaningful order or ranking, but the intervals between categories may not be equal. Example: customer satisfaction ratings, letter grades. Quantitative or numerical data. data that can be measured or counted numerically. Quantitative data is information restricted to numerical values, making it quantifiable and amenable to statistical analysis. It includes objective and observable information stated in specified units. For example, height, temperature, income, sales figure, population size, test score, and weight are the types of information that is considered quantitative data. This is numerical representation allow quantitative data to be mathematically examined, allowing patterns and correlation to be identified. This distinguishes it from qualitative data, which is descriptive, non-numerical data that captures insight into human experience, emotions, and perception. Importance of quantitative data. Quantitative data is invaluable when seeking a deeper knowledge of occurrence that can be properly quantified and stated numerically. These analytical techniques enables a thorough evaluation of quantifiable properties, allowing for a more in-depth exploration of patterns, correlation, and trends within data. By relying on numerical values, quantitative data not only improves the precision of analysis but also offer a firm platform for statistical interpretation and evidence-based decision making. As a result, it has become a vital tool in a variety of professions, allowing researchers to delve into the quantitative parts of complicated topics and develop meaningful conclusion supported by numerical data. There is a two subtypes of quantitative data, discrete and continuous. Discrete data that can only take on a finite or countable numbers of values. Example, number of students in a class, number of cars passing a certain point. Continuous data, data that can take on any value within a given range. Example, height, weight, temperature. Now, what is information? Information is a message that contains relevant meanings, implication, or input for decision and or action. Information is created when data are processed, organized, or structured to provide context and meaning. Information is the processed and organized form of data. It is data that has been analyzed, structured, and given context. Information provides meaning and can be used to answer questions or make decisions. It is the result of data being transformed into a more meaningful and useful state. Example of information. A report summarizing sales figure, a map showing traffic patterns is a examples of information. Characteristics of information. Some of the characteristics of information are accuracy. Accuracy of information is one of its most important characteristics. This implies that the content should provide correct and reliable data which has been verified by reliable sources. Accuracy also refers to how precise or detailed the information is, as users must have access to enough details for them to carry out their task accurately and effectively. Completeness. The completeness of the information is another one of its important characteristics. It implies that all necessary details are available so that user can make well-informed decisions. This means providing enough background information on a particular topic as well as any other relevant piece of data which may require. Timeliness. Timeliness is an important characteristic of information. because it provides evidence about when the data was collected or updated last. This helps user to guess its accuracy and whether it is applicable to their current needs. Additionally, timely information can be used to make decisions that are informed and in line with the current situation. Relevance. The relevance of information is another important characteristic. It implies that the collected data should be useful and applicable to the purpose for which it is being used. For instance, a student searching for information about a particular topic should have access to data that is related and helpful in furthering their understanding and research. Accessibility. One more characteristics of information is accessibility, which refers to how easy it is to get access to the content. This includes making sure it is available online or in physical form and that there are no restrictions that impede user ability to use it. Additionally, if there are language barriers or copyright issue, they need to be addressed so that user can access the information with ease. Consistency is one of the key characteristics of useful information, as it helps user to get a clear picture of a particular topic or situation. This implies that the data provided should be consistent from start to finish without any conflicting points, which could lead to confusion and misinterpretation. Types of information. Dennis Grogan, 1981, classified information sources based on level of reorganization into three distinct categories: primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. Primary information. Primary information refers to data or knowledge that is collected first-hand through original research or direct observation. It is considered the most reliable and authoritative form of information as it has not been interpreted or filtered through other sources. Examples of primary information include research articles, surveys, interviews, and experiments. Secondary information. Secondary information is derived from primary sources and represents a compilation or interpretation of existing data. It is often found in books, journals, reports, and databases. Secondary information provides a synthesized and analyzed perspective on a particular subject, making it useful for gaining a broader understanding of a topic. Tertiary information. Tertiary information consists of reference materials that summarize and organize primary and secondary information sources. These include encyclopedias, dictionaries, handbooks, and textbooks. Tertiary information serves as a starting point for research and provides general background knowledge on a subject. Types of information. Another types of information given by the David B. Hirsch and Albert B. Rubenstein 2014 have identified six types of information. These are follows. As first one is conceptual information. Conceptual information comes from ideas, theories, concept, and hypotheses. With conceptual information, an abstract idea is not always rooted in a scientific foundation and rather is the fundamental creation of beliefs, thoughts, philosophies, and preference. You can form or share conceptual information through comparison and reflection, creating philosophies that cannot be proven or seen. Some example of conceptual information is Charles Darwin theory of evolution, Copernican concept of astronomy, conceptual art, where the method of producing it is more important than the finished product. Next, empirical information. Empirical information means information gained through human sense, observation, experimentation, and the testing of a hypothesis by establishing documentation of patterns or behavior. It almost always has a scientific foundation and verifies the truth or falsehood of a claim through qualitative and quantitative factors. Here are several examples of empirical information rooted in science like electricity, atomic theory. Empirical evidence and information are the opposite of anecdotal information and evidence, which is a conclusion based on informal collection method, most often a personal experience and testimony. Procedural information. Procedural information or imperative knowledge is the method of how someone knows to do something and is used by performing a task. You can refer to as muscles memory since it is knowledge that is hard to explain and stored deeply in your mind. Some example of procedural information are riding a bicycle. Riding a bike takes physical practice to comprehend regardless of the amount or type of instruction given. Driving a car. You can pass your written driving test or get a perfect score. So, have little knowledge of the procedural information it takes to operate and drive a vehicle. Stimulatory information. Stimulatory information is information that creates a response or stimulation amongst a person or group of people. Stimulation encourages the cause of activity and you can gain stimulatory information in a variety of ways, like in person, through observation, through word of mouth communication, or through outlets like the news. One example may be a person observing the nonverbal communication of someone passing by. If the stimulation is positive, they may say hello and start a conversation, perhaps. Or if the stimulation is not positive, they may respond by moving in the other direction, running away, or creating more distance between them. Some example of stimulatory information. Victory Day celebration after a sports team wins a championship. The psychological fight or flight reaction response to perceived harm. Policy information. Policy information focuses on decision making and the design, formation, and selection of policies. It encompasses laws, guidelines, regulations, rules, and oversight for an organization, group of peoples or place. You can gain policy information through pictures, diagrams, description, and other visual, audio, or written message. Some examples of policy information are food pyramid diagram, periodic table of element, employee handbook. Directive information. Directive and descriptive information is about providing direction to a person or group of people to achieve a particular result and outcome. You can use directive information with or without dictating the means to achieve the desired result. Directive information often comes in verbal or written form and can apply to leadership at work, in the military or government, and with everyday experience like legal, life, and safety matters. Some example of directive and descriptive information: organ donation paperwork, coachings, mode of operation in any organization, employment performance review are some examples of directive information. What is knowledge? Knowledge is the cognition or recognition Know what, capacity to act, know how, and understanding know why that resides or is contained within the mind or in the brain. The purpose of knowledge is to better our lives. Knowledge is what we know. Knowledge is unique to each individual and is the accumulation of past experience and insight that shapes the lens by which we interpret and assign meaning to information. For knowledge to result in action, an individual must have the authority and capacity to make and implement a decision. Knowledge are needed to produce actionable information that can lead to impact. Some examples of knowledge: understanding why a particular sales strategy is effective, knowing how to troubleshoot a software problem. Characteristics of knowledge. Some of the important characteristics of knowledge. Knowledge is infinite. Knowledge is dynamic, continuous, and ever expanding. No final word can ever be said of any discipline. They are at best provisional, subject to criticize, correction, contradiction, change, or modification. A gifted man may acquire wide knowledge, deep wisdom, and spiritual insights, but all these are lost when he or she dies, except those that he or she has recorded. Knowledge once parted to others results in no loss to person. Knowledge become obsolete. Types of knowledge. Knowledge is classified on the basis of whether it is procedural, declarative, semantic, or episodic. Procedural knowledge, representing the understanding of how to carry out a specific process. Declarative knowledge, it is a routine knowledge about which the expert is conscious. It is shallow knowledge that can be readily recalled since it consists of simple and uncomplicated information. This type of knowledge often resides in short-term memory. Semantic knowledge, it is highly organized, chunked knowledge that resides mainly in long-term memory. Semantic knowledge can include major concept, vocabulary, facts, and relationships. And episodic knowledge, it represents the knowledge based on the episode, experimental information. Each episode is usually chunked in long-term memory. Types of knowledge. Another classification of knowledge is tacit knowledge and explicit knowledge. Tacit knowledge, it is knowledge that usually get embedded in human mind through experience. Tacit knowledge is a type of knowledge that difficult to express or put into words. It is deeply rooted in personal experience, intuition, skills, and insight that are often unspoken or unconscious. Explicit knowledge, it is knowledge that is codified and digitized in documents, books, reports, spreadsheet, and memos, etc. Explicit knowledge refers to knowledge that is straightforward and can be easily explained, written down, and shared with others. It is the kind of knowledge you can find in books, documents, or digital resources. This knowledge is specified based on fact and can be communicated using words, numbers, or symbol. Example of knowledge include things like training manuals, training materials, standard operating procedure, and reports and documentation. Tacit knowledge is gained through years of practice, observation, and hands-on experience. It includes things like task experts, problem solving abilities, and even social skill. Tacit knowledge is often embedded in a person mindset, behavior, and action, which make it hard to pass on directly to others. Data, information, and knowledge. Relationships. Data, information, and knowledge are integral component of the information ecosystem, each playing a distinct role in progressing from raw facts to insightful understanding. Data, information, and knowledge lay the foundation for understanding how experience is formed from evidence and observation. When data are put into context, the resultant information can derive growth and further contribute to increased knowledge. There are a number of models and frameworks that investigate the data, information, and knowledge process. First one, Cleveland in 1982 given the data, information, knowledge process as from fact and ideas to information, information to knowledge, and knowledge to wisdom. Akoff given another framework in 1988, starting from data which is gathered by observation, from data to information, information to knowledge, and by the processing of knowledge, it's get understanding, and finally, which is the wisdom. Bellinger in 1997 also given a framework which start from data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. Carpenter and Kennedy in 2004 given another meaningful data, information, and knowledge process. It starts from environment, from where we collect data, from by the processing of data, it's converted in information. From the information, we gather knowledge. From the knowledge, we gather wisdom. And from the wisdom, we get rich in vision. Data, information, and knowledge. The use of three terms is not consistent and is often conflicting. For instance, data and information are often used interchangeably in computing, data processing, and information processing, or data management and information management. Clearly, there are competing definitions and different perspective of data, information, and knowledge in different aspects of computer science and engineering, and in other disciplines such as psychology, management science, and epistemology. Lakoff differentiate them as below. First, data as symbols, information which is information, and from the symbols data process to be useful, providing answers to who, what, where, and when questions. Knowledge, application of data and information, providing answers to how questions. BIKW model, the data, information, knowledge, wisdom hierarchy, is a popular model for classifying human understanding in the perceptual and cognitive space. Its origins go back to the English poet T.S. Eliot, who says, where is the information lost in data, knowledge lost in information, and wisdom lost in knowledge? Here is a picture of DIKW model. Wisdom, it is the top of the DIKW hierarchy, and to get there, we must answer questions such as why do something, what is best. In other words, wisdom is knowledge applied in action. We can also say that if data and information are like a look back to the past, knowledge and wisdom are associated with what we do now and what we want to achieve in the future. Conclusion. The journey from raw data to actionable wisdom is a transformative process that underscores the significance of context, interpretation, and application. Data serve as the foundation, providing the essential raw material. Information adds structure and relevance, turning isolated facts into meaningful insight. Knowledge builds on this by integrating personal understanding and experience, creating a lens through which to evaluate and act on information. At the apex of the IKW pyramid, wisdom translates this knowledge into informed, impactful action guided by purpose and foresight. In practice, This transformation is neither static or unidirectional. Feedback loops refine the process, revealing gaps and redundancies that influence how data is collected and converted into knowledge. The DIKW framework not only helps organizations and individuals navigate the complexities of modern information system, but also ensures that data-driven strategies are purposeful and effective. By embracing the principle of this hierarchy, society can make better decisions, solve pressing challenges, and pave the way for sustainable progress. This is the reference and self-assessment question. Okay, thank you.